What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports 200 Show. And in this video, I'm live on YouTube, like always. And today's video will be a 7-round mock draft of the New England Patriots. Just recently got done with the Minnesota Vikings. So today will be a 7-round mock draft of the Patriots. It's going to be really interesting, with the Patriots, what they do in free agency and the draft. And I think, the Patriots are one of the teams who depending on what they do in free agency, that has a huge, implication of what they could do in the draft because, if they sign a quarterback or trade for a quarterback, they're not going to draft a quarterback high at all. And I possibly do think that could be the case. But, some of these picks, when it comes to, after free agency, they may not have because, they trade for some good players like a quarterback. I personally I think they may get Jimmy Garoppolo from the 49ers. Whether they trade for him or the 49ers just release him. If they trade for him, they're not going to have all these picks. And something else to point out, these picks are all from ProFootballNetwork.com. These are from a mock draft simulator. These are not who necessarily I think players will drop this far or maybe reaches. But these are mock draft simulators. And so we'll go ahead and get started here with, and compensatory picks. These have compensatory picks. Compensatory picks have not been released yet. So once they are released, these will officially be their picks. So we'll get started. The New England Patriots pick 15th overall in the first round. So with their 15th pick, I have them taking Kyle Pitts. I do not necessarily think Kyle Pitts will be available. I think it is possible, but I do think it's a little bit on the unlikely side. Kyle Pitts, to me, would be fantastic for the New England Patriots. I mean, Kyle Pitts is one of my favorite players in the draft, not just offense, but on the whole draft in general. He's one of the best prospects in the draft, and I think he would be a great part of the Patriots' future. I think he could be their next Gronkowski, and I think that'd be a fantastic pickup, especially if you're able to sign or trade Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, you're already giving him an insane weapon in the first round. In the second round, I have the New England Patriots taking Carlos Basham Jr. from Wake Forest, edge rusher. I think they could use a little bit help on the defensive side of the ball. He's one of the more underrated edge rushers. I wouldn't be surprised if he, by the time as we get close to the draft, maybe slides close to that first round range. But I really, really like that pick there. I think I think that'd be a nice pick, and really be a young, solid piece to your future defense, and really help you out in the future. It may not necessarily help you out a ton to start off, but I think it'd be a really, really nice piece for the Patriots' future. Speaking of defensive players who would be a big part of the future, I have them taking Jalen Tormund, defensive tackle from Pittsburgh. I think that would be an amazing pick. I think he's going to be really, really good. There's been some comparisons of him, with Aaron Donald and Geno Atkins. Both of those guys are amazing. I think he's going to be one of the biggest, one of the best players in the draft when it's all said and done. From where he was picked, one of the best steals in the draft. So I really like that pick. Jalen Tormund, defensive tackle from Pittsburgh, going in the third. In the fourth round, I do have a decent amount of defensive players, but I really think they're going to sign lots of players in free agency. That's why I had this more so defense. In the fourth round, I had them taking linebacker Tony Phillips from West Virginia. They could use a little bit of linebacker help, and I think that's a really nice pick. I believe Tony Phillips was, the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year this past season. He's one of the better linebackers in the draft. But like I said, I mean, they're really helping out their defense. They do help out their offense. I mean, by getting Kyle Pitts, they want to get some other players too. But I think they're going to really get some offensive players. Like I said, this is why I'm kind of giving it more so in the defensive side of the ball. So they have another fourth round pick. So I have them taking Robert Rochelle, the corner from Central Arkansas. I think he's a really, really under the radar player. One of the more underrated corners in the draft. And you know how Belichick, loves to find like the diamond in the rough type of players, players nobody even really heard of, for example, like Brady, and turn them into absolute stars. And I think that could maybe be a scenario with Robert Rochelle. So they actually have another fourth round pick. They have 3 fourth round picks. This is their last fourth round pick. I have them taking Cade Johnson, the wide receiver from South Dakota State. I really like this pick. I think he's really, really underrated. I mean, he's one of the more underrated receivers in the draft, and just like I said, he really gets those small school players or players who, maybe not a ton of people have heard of, and will turn them into stars. And I think that could be a scenario with K. Johnson. And I believe he's played 25 games the past 2 seasons and had 2,500 receiving yards. That's 100 receiving yards a game. Really underrated. Would really like this pick for the New England Patriots. This next pick here is probably my favorite pick in the draft. For this draft, I have the New England Patriots taking Jalen Darden, the wide receiver from North Texas. I think Jalen Darden will be an absolute star with the New England Patriots. I mean, this is just another example. I've said the last 2 picks, but just another example of not a super like high profile player, not a super like big school. But I think Jalen Darden with the Patriots will be amazing. At pick number 15, I had them taking Kyle Pitts, but if Kyle Pitts is available, I would not totally be surprised if it was maybe Kadarius Toney or Rashad Bateman. But even if you draft one of those guys, I would still love it if the Patriots got K. Johnson or Jalen Darden. Jalen Darden's one of my favorite prospects of the draft. If you've seen my videos before, I speak really highly of him. I think he's going to be maybe the next Tyreek Hill. He had 19 receiving touchdowns in just 9 games. He's so explosive once he gets the ball in his hands, and I think he'd be amazing with the New England Patriots. So the Patriots have 3 picks left, and they have 2 6th rounds and 1 7th round pick. In the 6th round, I have them taking Sam Ehlinger, the quarterback of Texas. I think he was a really pretty good college quarterback, and the draft boards, he's not really up there, but I think this maybe Belichick can make him into a pretty good backup quarterback. If you look at the Patriots past backup quarterbacks in years past, prior to this year, they've all been really good. Jacoby Brissett, Jimmy Garoppolo, Matt Castle. Matt Castle wasn't really good, but they were able to be good with the New England Patriots. And if Garoppolo, whoever the quarterback would be, if they re-signed Cam Newton, I think if Sam Ehlinger had to come in and play a game or 2, I think he would be all right. And I think he could be a pretty good backup for the New England Patriots. I know they have Jarrett Stidham, but that has not worked out at all. I didn't like that pick when that happened. I never got the hype around him. But I think Ehlinger, for the time being, can maybe be a pretty good backup for the New England Patriots. But their other 6th round pick, I have them taking offensive tackle Josh Ball from Marshall. To me, I think this makes a lot of sense. Josh Ball is a massive offensive tackle. I believe he's 6'5", 330, 340, something around that. And they could use maybe some depth at offensive line. And Belichick and the Patriots love Marshall players throughout the years. They drafted Justin Warreiser, the kicker from Marshall, in the 5th round last year, which, looking back, that was a horrible pick because, Tyler Johnson, the wide receiver from the Buccaneers, is still available. And they drafted Aaron Dobson years ago when that was really a risky pick that was really questionable, and that did not turn out. They had Troy Brown, who was from Marshall. They had Randy Moss. To me, it just really seems the Patriots target like those small school prospects, like I've said pretty much the whole episode. And Josh Ball is another one of those examples. He did play at Florida State, and he transferred to Marshall. Was really, really good. One of the best offensive linemen in Conference USA. But I really like this pick here in the 6th round. And another example as a small school player is my final pick is Tyrone Jackson, the edge rusher from Coastal Carolina. I love this pick so much, but I think this might be my 2nd favorite pick. Maybe it just depends. But Tyrone Jackson is a great edge rusher, and I know we already took 2 defensive linemen before this pick, and Carlos Basham and Jalen Tormund. But you cannot pass up on Tyrone Jackson, especially in the 7th round, one of the last picks of the draft. And I know if Tyrone Jackson is available, I think Belichick would think the same way. You cannot pass up on talented players, even though you may already have good players at that position. That's what good coaches do. They take the best player available anyway. But I know I did kind of pick more defense and offense, but like I said, I think they're going to go offensive heavy in the free agency, and some of these small school guys, under the radar guys, the Patriots thrive at making those type of players stars. And Jimmy Garoppolo, for example, only started, I believe, 4 or 5 games for the Patriots and made him look really, really good. Obviously Brady, so many other players. I mean, Robert Rochelle, Kay Johnson, Jalen Darden, Josh Ball, and Tyrone Jackson, none of those are Power 5 guys at all. And I think, if they're with the Patriots, I think they have a potential of all of those guys to be really good. So I want to recap this one more time. Kyle Pitts goes 15 to the Patriots. In the second round, they take edge rusher Carlos Basham Jr. from Wake Forest. In the third round, I had them taking Jalen Tormund, the defensive tackle from Pittsburgh. In the fourth round, linebacker Tony Fields from West Virginia. Another fourth-round pick, I had them taking Robert Rochelle, the corner from Central Arkansas. Another fourth-round pick, they take Kay Johnson, the wide receiver from South Dakota State. In the fifth round, I had them taking Jalen Darden, the wide receiver from North Texas. In the sixth, I had them taking quarterback from Texas, Sam Ehlinger. Another sixth-round pick, I had them taking offense tackle Josh Ball from Marshall. And their last pick, and their only seventh-round pick, I had them taking Tyrone Jackson, the edge rusher from Coastal Carolina. Overall, I think this is a pretty good mock draft by the New England Patriots, but it's going to be really interesting because whatever they do in free agency will have a huge impact on what they do in the draft. Thank you all so much for listening. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I really appreciate it. And I will see you next time on the Sports 200 Show.